What's up guys, I thought I'd take some time out and talk to you about the GPUs on the new Nexus devices, the Nexus 4 and the Nexus 10 specifically. I'm going to start off with the Nexus 4. So we know it's got an Adreno 320 which on paper is an absolute beast, but if you've watched a lot of my reviews and stuff on gaming performance, especially the latest one with Vice City versus the Galaxy S3, it's not performing as well as I'd hoped. The S3 is actually performing better. It's got a higher frame rate. It's just doing better, and I don't know why. I'm just going to go ahead and show you these benchmarks. The Galaxy S3 is on the left, and the Nexus 4 is on the right. And let's just take the first test for example, and you can see here. Let's take the on-screen test. So the Galaxy S3 scores 16.6 frames per second. The Nexus 4 scores a massive 44 frames per second. There is no doubt in my mind that the Adreno 320 is better than the Mali 400. But it's not showing that well in games. Modern Combat 4, for example, was very smooth on the Nexus 4, yes, but it wasn't running the effects that the Galaxy S3 was running. So you've got to ask the question, why is this happening, right? And I think it's a few things. One, I think it's a new phone, a new GPU, so the games aren't quite optimized for it. And secondly, I think it might have something to do with Android version 4.2. Maybe the drivers aren't quite right in Android version 4.2 for the graphics chip. I don't know. I have seen it before with Android versions where I've upgraded and my graphics performance in 2D and 3D has decreased. So maybe that's the case. If you haven't seen my Galaxy S3 versus the LG Nexus 4 Vice City video, go ahead and check it out because the Galaxy S3 is smoother. Which is crazy because if you look at these benchmarks, the Adreno 320 here should be killing the Galaxy S3, and it's just not. Now, there is meant to be an issue with the LG Nexus 4, and it is an issue, and it overheats, and it's called thermal throttling. But I don't think that's actually taking effect when I'm playing the games for like 2 minutes. I've quickly gone to check the temperature after the games, and the battery temperature's around 28, 29, 30. And it's not meant to throttle until it gets to about 60 degrees or 47, something around those numbers. It's different between CPU and battery temperature. But I'm pretty certain that my device isn't throttling on playing GTA for a few minutes. So, as you can see here from the benchmarks, guys, the Adreno 320 should smash the Galaxy S3, and from my test so far, it just isn't. There is one member that commented recently, and he might have a good point. Even though both the settings were on max on Vice City for both the devices, he was saying that the textures are actually lower resolution on the Galaxy S3, and that might be playing a part in why the frame rate was higher. I don't know if that's definitely true or if it's just an observation, I don't know, but it might have something to do with it. So you've got to take that into account. I seriously hope that the developers and everyone gets sorted with the Adreno 320 because it's an absolute beast, and you can see here from the benchmarks, it beats the Galaxy S3 hands down in every test. If you look at the on-screen tests, they're ridiculous. If we look at the next on-screen test, the Galaxy S3 scored 16.4 versus the Nexus 4's 29.2. The Nexus 4 should be outperforming the Galaxy S3, and from the two games, Modern Combat and Vice City, it just isn't. So that's the Nexus 4 and the Adreno 320. Next thing I want to talk to you about is the Nexus 10 with its Mali 604 and see what's going on with that one. So I've done the same thing here, guys. First thing I want to show you is on the right side, you'll see just this list of top performing devices on one specific test, and it's an off-screen test with 1080p. So you can see here the iPad 4 is first, and by a long way as well. The Nexus 10 is second, but it's the second best device in all the tablets around. So it has a strong GPU. There's no two ways about that. But again, it's not performing too well on my graphics tests. For example, on the Vice City tests or the Modern Combat tests, it was a little bit laggy and you expect more. So again, there's the optimization question, but there's also the point that the resolution that the Nexus 10 is running at is very, very high, and it's got to take a performance hit. If I show you the iPad 4 versus the Nexus 10 results, iPad 4 is on the left. If we take the on-screen test here, the iPad 4 scores 42.2 frames per second, whereas the Nexus 10 scores 26.8. That is a very big difference in frames, and it's the same problem the iPad 3 kind of had. The iPad 3 was a little bit underpowered. They released the iPad 4 with a better GPU, so maybe that's the same with the 10, but the iPad 3 still plays a lot of games very smoothly. So again, I'm going to move over to the optimization argument and say that they're just not optimizing it for that GPU. And another thing is the Nexus 4 and the Nexus 10 both have one thing in common as well, and it's Android 4.2. Maybe there again is something wrong with the drivers and they're not performing to their maximum potential. I don't know. A lot of people have been asking me and talking about the GPU and why it isn't performing too well, and I'm trying to help answer some of those questions now. I know it's quite difficult, but the Nexus 4 should definitely be performing better. I think the Nexus 10 is performing quite well considering its resolution. It has got a higher resolution than the iPad 4. But if you look at the off-screen test here, 59.1 versus 36.5, the iPad 4's GPU is just downright stronger. There is no two ways about that, guys. So yeah, I hope that helps describe a little bit about the GPUs, some of your questions. Yeah, guys, please comment if you've got any more questions or if you've got any more insights. I'd love to hear it. So yeah, see you later.